My name is Courtney, and I was raised in a large household. They kept trying because Dad was determined to have a son. Mom continued to become pregnant until the doctors eventually took a firm stand. "Not anymore," they murmured. "It's too risky." At that point, Mom and Dad gave up on their desire for a boy for good. Since I was the eldest, I was assigned to a lot of menial tasks. Please understand that although I cherished my sisters, there were moments when I felt more like a parent than a sibling. I have to mature quickly, you know? I was helping Mom with things around the home and changing diapers while the other kids went outside to play. After the birth of my youngest sister, everything truly changed. It was as though Mom and Dad had unexpectedly realized they were parents. They purchased her the nicest toys, lavished her with attention, and enrolled her in every club and activity imaginable. She obtained all she desired. When I was around 14 years old, I once heard my mother on the phone. "I just don't have time for the older girls anymore," she stated. "Catherine's handling it, though. She's such a good helper." All I was allowed to be was an assistant. Not a sibling, not even a daughter, just an assistant. But I persevered because of a secret. Mom's mother, my grandma, and I had a major falling out years prior, but I had been able to locate her phone number, and we had been communicating covertly ever since. I began to dream of college as I grew older. I wasn't content to be the family nanny. I wanted more for myself. But my parents gave me a shocking revelation right after I graduated from high school. Dad responded, not even meeting my eyes. "There's no money for your education, Courtney. You must work to support yourself financially. We must put money aside for your sister's college." I sobbed myself to sleep that night, feeling helpless and stuck. But then I realized that Grandma was my secret weapon. I contacted her the following day and told her everything in between sobbing. Her voice was firm and decisive as she said, "Don't you worry, sweetheart. I'll cover your college expenses. A better life is what you deserve to have." And that was it. A completely new world revealed itself to me. With the hope of starting over, I applied to colleges in different cities. I was ecstatic to be admitted to study economics. However, it wasn't how my parents saw it. Mom said, "You're leaving your family behind," with icy eyes. "After everything we've done for you." Finished for me? I was hearing things that I couldn't believe. "I've been raising your children ever since I was a young child." Dad yelled, "Get out," in a quiet, irate voice. "Go if you're planning to leave. However, don't count on our assistance." That evening, as my sisters watched with teary eyes, I packed my luggage. "Kathy, please don't go," they begged, telling them, "I have to." I gave them each a strong hug. "However, I'll be here for you at all times. All the time." Dad's voice could be heard behind me as I left the house. "Girls, please don't talk to Catherine at all. Do you get it?" I felt like I could finally breathe as I got used to college life. There was a lot of activity on campus, and for once, I was just concerned about myself. However, despite my acceptance of this new phase, I still felt guilty. I was really missing my sisters. Even though my parents forbade it, I couldn't bear to think of severing all contact with them. I received a call one evening from an unidentified number. As I responded, my heart raced. "Kathy?" The voice was that of my second youngest sister, hardly audible above a whisper. "Emily, is that you?" My exhilaration was almost too much to handle. "Yes, that is me. I'm using the phone of a friend. Parents are unable to know." That evening, we caught up on everything over hours of conversation. Emily informed me about our parents' newfound strictness, how things had changed at home, and how much everyone, even Sarah, missed me. Regarding our youngest sister, I inquired. The other end of the call paused. "You, Sarah?" "That's not her, Kathy. She told Dad and Mom that we had called you. They removed our phones. But don't worry, we'll make arrangements to communicate. Kathy, you're loved. Those covert calls ended up becoming my lifeline. With the exception of Sarah, my sisters would call me on their friends' phones. We would discuss their goals and lives, and I would tell them tales from my time in college. It was something. Even though it wasn't the same as being there, I immersed myself in my studies in the interim. I was really interested in economics, and I was doing really well in my classes. My teachers noticed, and before long, I was getting recommendations for special projects and internships. I couldn't help but think about my folks back home while my college years whizzed by. My sisters would occasionally tell me tidbits about how Sarah was still the epitome of perfection, how she frequented all these clubs, and how she was the life of the party. During one of our clandestine conversations, my sister Jessica informed me, "Mom and Dad are talking about sending her to some fancy private school." I knew the answer when I asked, "What about you and Emily?" "Oh, you know," Jessica said, attempting to sound casual. "Most likely we'll just visit the nearby high school. Really, nothing to worry about." However, I knew it wasn't right. I understood what it was like to be disregarded and to be thought of as less important. The fact that my sisters were experiencing the same thing devastated my heart. I experienced a mixture of fear and excitement as graduation drew near. I had performed well in college, in large part because of my grandmother's encouragement. Throughout it all, she had been my pillar of support, always there to offer encouragement or wise words when I needed them. Catherine told me one night on the phone, "I'm so proud of you. You've gone a long way. Your grandpa would also have been pleased." On the day of my graduation, I scanned the crowd, hoping again against hope that maybe, just maybe, my parents and sisters would be there, but they weren't. The only familiar face in the sea of people was my grandmother, beaming with pride. Fresh out of college, I hit the ground running. The job was challenging, but I thrived on it. Months flew by, and I settled into a routine: work, gym, home, repeat. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine. I was building my own life on my own terms. Then came the company's annual corporate party. I almost didn't go. Large gatherings still made me a bit uncomfortable. But my colleague Jen insisted. "Come on, Catherine," she pleaded. "It'll be fun. Plus, I heard some big wigs from our partner companies will be there. Great networking opportunity." The party was in full swing when I arrived. Soft jazz played in the background as people mingled, drinks in hand. I was about to make a beeline for the punch bowl when I quite literally bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I stammered, looking up to see a pair of kind brown eyes. "No harm done," the man said with a warm smile. "I'm Michael, by the way. I don't think we've met." "Catherine," I replied, shaking his hand. "I'm from the economics department." We got to talking, and I learned that Michael was an executive from one of our partner companies. He was smart, funny, and easy to talk to. Before I knew it, hours had passed. As the party wound down, Michael asked for my number. "I'd love to continue this conversation over coffee sometime," he said. I hesitated for a moment, then thought, why not? I'd spent so much of my life taking care of others. Maybe it was time to let someone take care of me for a change. Our first date turned into a second, then a third. Before I knew it, we were officially a couple. Michael was everything I'd never known I wanted. Kind, supportive, and he actually listened when I talked. A year later, he proposed to me. As we started planning the wedding, I faced a dilemma. Should I invite my family? Despite everything, they were still my parents and sisters. After much thought, I sent the invitations to my parents, to all my sisters, even Sarah. I also sent one to my grandmother, the one person who had always been there for me. Weeks passed, and I heard nothing from my parents or sisters. Then one day, I got a call from Emily. "Kathy," she said, her voice trembling, We got your invitation. Mom and Dad, they won't let us come. They won't even let us send you a card. I'm so sorry." The day of the wedding arrived. As I stood in front of the mirror in my white dress, I felt a mix of joy and sadness. My grandmother walked in, her eyes shining with tears. "Oh, Catherine," she said, hugging me tight. "You look beautiful. I'm so proud of you." As I walked down the aisle towards Michael, I saw the faces of our friends, his family, and my grandmother. My family wasn't there, but I realized something important. Family isn't always about blood. It's about love, support, and acceptance. The years after our wedding flew by in a whirlwind of love, laughter, and shared dreams. Michael and I settled into our life together, both of us continuing to work and build our careers. We traveled, explored new hobbies together, and talked endlessly about our future. Then we decided to start trying for a baby. Months passed, then a year, then 2. Nothing happened. We went through all the tests, tried every recommendation, but still no baby. It was heartbreaking. The next few years were a roller coaster of hope and disappointment. We went through treatment after treatment, each failure hitting us harder than the last. One day, after another failed round of IVF, I broke down. "Maybe we're not meant to be parents." I sobbed into Michael's chest. He held me tight, stroking my hair. "Hey, look at me," he said gently. "We're going to be parents. Maybe not in the way we originally thought, but we will be. What do you think about adoption? A child is a child, Catherine. All they need is love, and we've got plenty of that." His words warmed my heart, and I felt a glimmer of hope. "Okay," I said, wiping my tears. "Let's do it." The adoption process was long and often frustrating. There were so many forms to fill out, interviews to go through, and home studies to pass. But we persevered, driven by our desire to give a child a loving home. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we got the call. The day we met Lily was one I'll never forget. She was tiny, with big brown eyes and skin darker than ours. She looked scared and confused, clinging to her social worker's hand. I knelt down to her level. "Hi, Lily," I said softly. "I'm Courtney, and this is Michael. We've been waiting a long time to meet you." She looked at us wearily, then back at her social worker, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, Lily reached out and took my hand. In that moment, I fell in love. This was our daughter. I didn't care that she didn't look like us or share our DNA. She was ours, and we were hers. When Lily was about 5, we sat her down and explained, in simple terms, how she came to be our daughter. We showed her pictures from the day we met her and told her how much we'd wanted her, how we'd fallen in love with her the moment we saw her. Lily listened intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. When we finished, she was quiet for a moment. "So you picked me?" she asked. Finally, I smiled, tears in my eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. Out of all the children in the world, we picked you, and we'd pick you again every single time." She beamed at us, then threw her arms around us both. "I love you, Mommy and Daddy," she said. As I held my daughter close, I thought about my own childhood, the pain, the neglect, the feeling of never being good enough. I vowed then and there that Lily would never feel that way. She would always know how loved and wanted she was. Life has a funny way of bringing you full circle. One day, Michael said his company had opened a branch in my hometown, and he would become the head of this branch. The move was chaotic, as moves tend to be, but as we settled into our new home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to reach out to my sisters. My parents had passed away a few years back. I hadn't gone to the funeral, but my sisters, maybe it was time to mend those fences. I reached out to Jessica and Emily first. They were cautious at first, but eager to reconnect. We met for coffee, and it was like no time had passed at all. They seeded over pictures of Lily and told me about their own families and their kids. "We've missed you so much, Kathy," Emily said, squeezing my hand. "We're so glad you're back." For a while, everything was perfect. We started having family gatherings and holiday celebrations. Lily was thrilled to have cousins to play with, and I loved seeing her surrounded by family. But then there was Sarah, our youngest sister. From the moment we reconnected, I could tell she hadn't changed much. She was still the spoiled, entitled girl she'd always been, now grown into a woman who thought the world revolved around her and her family. At our first big family gathering, Sarah showed up with her husband and their son, Tommy. From the moment they arrived, it was clear that Sarah saw this as a competition rather than a reunion. "Tommy, show your aunties how well you can sing," she'd say, pushing her son forward. "He's taking lessons, you know. The teacher says he's a prodigy." As the party went on, I noticed Lily hanging back, looking uncomfortable. She approached Tommy, holding out a piece of candy. "Want to share?" she asked shyly. Before Tommy could respond, Sarah swooped in. "Tommy, don't take that," she screeched. "Throw it away. Her hands are dirty." I was across the room in an instant. "Sarah, what are you talking about? Lily's hands are clean." But Sarah just glared at me, then at Lily. "Well, you never know with her kind," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Come on, Tommy, let's go play with your real cousins." I stood there, shocked and hurt. Did she really just say that about my daughter? From that moment on, things were tense. Sarah made it clear at every gathering that she didn't consider Lily part of the family. She'd loudly proclaimed that Tommy couldn't play with Lily because who knows what diseases she might have, or we don't know her genetic background. Each time I'd confront her and defend my daughter, but the damage was being done. I could see Lily withdrawing, becoming quieter at these family events. One day, I made a decision. I wouldn't force Lily to attend these gatherings anymore. I started declining invitations, making excuses. Jessica and Emily understood, even though they were disappointed. As the dust settled from our move and the family drama that ensued, I found solace in my visits to Grandma. She had been my rock through everything, and now, in her twilight years, I wanted to be there for her as much as she had been for me. Every weekend, Lily and I would make the short drive to Grandma's house. She would be waiting on the porch, her face lighting up as soon as she saw us. "There's my girls," she'd call out, arms outstretched. Lily would race up the steps, throwing herself into Grandma's embrace. "Grandma, I missed you." Watching them together always warmed my heart. Grandma doted on Lily, showering her with love and attention. She never once treated Lily differently because she was adopted. To Grandma, Lily was family, plain and simple. As the months passed, Grandma's health began to decline. Our visits became less about long talks and more about quiet companionship. Lily would read to her or show her drawings she'd made. Even in her weakened state, Grandma's love for us shone through. The day Grandma passed was one of the hardest of my life. We'd been there with her at the end, holding her hand as she slipped away peacefully. Lily, wise beyond her years, had climbed onto the bed and curled up next to her great-grandmother. "It's okay, Grandma," she'd whispered. "You can rest now. We love you." In the days that followed, as we dealt with our grief and the logistics that come with losing a loved one, we received some unexpected news. Grandma's lawyer called, asking us to come to his office. "Your grandmother left a will," he explained. When we arrived, he said, "Well, you might want to sit down for this." What he told us next left me speechless. Grandma had left everything to me and Lily: the house, several cars, and over $1 million. "Your grandfather was quite successful," the lawyer explained, "and your grandmother was an astute investor. She had intended to leave it all to your mother despite their estrangement, but when your mother passed, I nodded, understanding. Grandma had changed her will, leaving everything to us. When word got out about the inheritance, my phone started ringing off the hook. Jessica and Emily called to congratulate me, saying I deserved it. But then came the call I'd been dreading. "Sarah, Courtney," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "I heard about Grandma's will. So when are you sharing the inheritance with the rest of us?" I felt a flash of anger. After everything she'd said and done, how dare she? "I'm not," I said firmly. "The inheritance is for me and Lily. That's what Grandma wanted." "But that's not fair," Sarah screeched. "I'm family too. I deserve—" I cut her off. "No, Sarah, you don't. Goodbye." As I put down the phone, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For so long I tried to please everyone, to be the perfect daughter and sister. But now I realized it was time to put my own family first. It was Jessica's birthday, and despite my reservations, I decided it was time to make an appearance at a family gathering. When we arrived, the party was in full swing. Jessica's backyard was filled with laughter and chatter. Kids ran around playing tag while adults mingled, drinks in hand. For a moment, it felt like old times. Jessica embraced me warmly. "I'm so glad you came, Kathy," she whispered. I could see the genuine happiness in her eyes. For the first hour or so, everything was fine. Lily joined her cousins on the lawn, their laughter floating across the yard. I relaxed a bit, thinking maybe this wasn't such a bad idea after all. But then I saw Sarah. She was moving from child to child, whispering in their ears. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I saw the way the kids' eyes widened, the way they glanced at Lily. Suddenly, Lily was standing alone. The other children had moved away, forming their own group, pointedly excluding her. I watched as my daughter's face crumpled in confusion and hurt. Before I could react, Lily ran to me, tears streaming down her face. "Mommy," she sobbed, "they don't want to play with me anymore. They said I'm sick and not really family." Rage boiled up inside me. I hugged Lily close, then marched over to Sarah, who was watching the scene with a smug smile. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. Sarah's smile didn't falter. "Oh, calm down, Catherine. I'm just telling the children the truth. They deserve to know about her condition." "Condition?" I spat. "The only person with a condition here is you, Sarah. Your behavior is disgusting." We had attracted a gathering by now. The other grown-ups were seeing the altercation with keen eyes. An hideous smudge curled across Sarah's face. "My actions?" "Catherine, that's rather generous of you to say. You, who defrauded the rest of us of our just reward by slyly stealing Grandma's money. And for what purpose? To give that girl, who isn't even truly a member of this family, money." We heard gasps all around. "You are very daring. Lily is my daughter in my eyes. She belongs in this family just as much as the rest of us do." Sarah let out a harsh, derisive chuckle. "A family? We're not even connected to her. She's just some random kid you met, born into a family of crooks or drug addicts most likely. She is not entitled to our family's history." Now I was trembling with rage. It doesn't matter that you don't know anything about Lily's biological parents. I adore my daughter more than anything in the world because she is my daughter. "Love?" Sarah scoffed. "Is that what you term it when you rob members of your own family using a child? You're nothing more than a thief, Catherine. You're just exploiting that girl to steal Grandma's money. We, however, will no longer put up with it. It's time you gave us all what is properly ours." Just as I was ready to reply, Jessica moved forward, her expression determined. "That's enough, Sarah," she firmly uttered. "You have no right to speak to Catherine like that, or to treat Lily this way." Sarah's shocked eyes grew wider. What? Are you siding with her now? Emily moved to stand next to me, as Jessica did. Yes, we both are. Even when our own parents weren't there for us, Catherine was always there for us. Sarah, she reared us. She is deserving of her entire wealth. A lump formed in my throat as a result of my sister's encouragement. Sarah's expression twisted with anger. You betrayers! Dare you? You're betraying our parents' legacy. Emily snorted. Our folks? The same parents who lavished attention on you while ignoring us? The same folks who ignored Catherine when she dared to pursue her education? Jessica gave a nod. Remember, Sarah, how you stole Mom and Dad's house and all of their savings after they passed away. You did not give any of us a single dime of that. This information was new to me, so I gasped. What? Sarah? Is that accurate? Sarah's lips moved like a fish out of water as her cheeks turned red. It's true, Emily added. She got everything when Mom and Dad passed, and she never once offered to share. I felt a rush of resentment and disillusionment. Sarah had been accusing me of stealing all along, even though she had done the exact same thing. I think it's time for you to go, Sarah, I stated in a calm, authoritative voice. She said, You can't make me. But Jessica interrupted her. She can indeed. I want you to leave my house. This is my home. All of us are sick of your outbursts and your harshness. You're not welcome here until you can be respectful to Catherine and Lily. Sarah turned to face the fact that she was outnumbered. She gave him one more angry look, took his hand, and took off. A weight lifted from my shoulders when the gate slammed behind her. With tears in my eyes, I turned to face my sisters. I'm grateful, I muttered. I came to a decision later that evening. I called my sisters the following day to let them know my strategy. They protested that I didn't have to do this, but I persisted. I kept the $1 million for our family and gave them the house and cars. I had a wave of calm after the inheritance was resolved. I made sure Lily would always be taken care of by transferring half of the money to a trust fund. Michael and I chose to use the remaining half for our family. We were going to take that Disney World vacation Lily had always wanted. We would remodel our house to make it the ideal setting for our small family. And perhaps, just possibly, we might consider adopting a second kid to give Lily the brother she's always desired.